So let's talk about a system that's designed to fix one of the biggest problems in getting projects done right. It's called the Last Planner System, and it has a pretty bold promise to take a team's reliability from a shockingly low 54% all the way up to 85%. Let's dig into how it actually works.
First, let's just stare at this number for a second. 54%. What is that? Well, studies have shown that's the average percentage of weekly tasks on a project that actually get done as planned. Yeah, you heard that right. It means that nearly half the time, the stuff we say we're going to do just doesn't happen.
And that, of course, leads to the one question that probably keeps you up at night. How do we build plans we can actually count on? How do we get out of this cycle of wishful thinking and start creating predictable, reliable outcomes? Well, the answer might lie in a framework called the Last Planner System. And I want to be clear, this isn't some new software you have to buy or another complicated checklist. It's a system built around 5 very specific conversations. So today, we're going to walk through that 54% problem, introduce this 5-conversation system, and then break down each one to see how they turn planning from a guessing game into a delivery machine.
So let's be really clear about what that 54% actually means for a project. It's not just a statistic on a slide. No, it's the root cause of so many delays, budget overruns, and, frankly, a ton of frustration for the team. It's a huge, flashing sign that the traditional way we plan just isn't cutting it. So, how do we fix it? That's where the Last Planner System, or LPS, comes in. Think of it as a collaborative way to create a smooth, predictable flow of work. The whole idea is that planning isn't something you do once. It's a series of 5 connected conversations that keep building on each other.
And here they are, the 5 conversations that make up the whole system. You start with milestone planning and phase pull planning. Then you get into the nitty-gritty with look ahead and weekly work planning. And finally, you close the loop with learning. Each one flows right into the next, creating this really powerful cycle of planning, doing, and getting better.
All right, let's dive into the first part of this system. We start with the first 2 conversations, and these are all about setting the strategy, basically figuring out what should be possible to achieve.
Conversation number 1 is milestone planning. The goal here is simple. Get everybody on the same page about the big, important project goals. But here's the trick, the real key insight. You work backwards. Instead of starting at day 1, the team agrees on the final finish line and then maps out the major steps to get there, from end to start. It's a small shift, but it creates incredible alignment right from the get-go.
Now that leads us right into the second conversation, phase pull planning. So if milestone planning gave us the high-level map, this is where we draw in the actual roads. The team figures out the exact sequence of work and, most importantly, the critical handoffs needed to hit those milestones. And it does this using a really powerful idea called a pull methodology.
So what in the world is pull planning? Well, think about how it's normally done. With push planning, you finish your task and you just shove it downstream to the next person, whether they're ready for it or not. It creates chaos and pile-ups. The Last Planner System flips that on its head. It uses a pull system where work only moves forward when the next person in line, your internal customer, is actually ready and asks for it. This one change is the secret to creating a smooth, efficient workflow.
And what does that pull conversation actually sound like? It's not a manager barking orders. It's a direct, respectful request from one team member to another. It starts with the person downstream saying, hey, for me to do my job, I need you to have your part finished first.
And this is the magic. The other side of that request is a promise. The person responsible for that work makes a real commitment. You got it, I promise to get that done for you. And then, what do? They turn to the person before them and make their own request. See? It creates this unbreakable chain of reliable promises that literally pulls the whole project forward.
Okay, so we've planned out what we should be able to do. Fantastic. But now the system shifts gears and we get down to execution. The next 2 conversations are all about getting the work ready and making a firm commitment to what we will do. And right here is the first major reality check. The conversation totally shifts. We're no longer in the ideal world of what should happen. We're now in the practical world of what can happen. This is where the plan starts to get really, really real.
Conversation 3 is look-ahead planning. And honestly, this is the secret sauce for making plans reliable. The team looks 6, 8, even 10 weeks into the future with one goal: to hunt down and eliminate any potential roadblocks, what the system calls constraints, long before they can cause a problem.
So, a constraint. What is that? It's just a fancy word for anything that could stop work in its tracks. It could be missing information, materials that haven't shown up yet, or even just the right person being out of the office. Look-ahead planning is all about finding and fixing these things before they become 5-alarm fires.
So once all those roadblocks are cleared out of the way, the final and maybe most important shift in language happens. The conversation moves from what can be done to what will be done. And this isn't a hope or a target anymore. This is a public promise. And that brings us to conversation number 4, weekly work planning. This is where the last planners, and that just means the people closest to the actual work, like the foreman and the team leads, make specific, reliable promises for the week ahead. Their plan spells out exactly what gets done, by whom, and by when. And that plan becomes the yardstick we use to measure our reliability.
Okay, so we've planned the work and we've worked the plan, but the system is not complete. Without this final step, it all falls apart. This last conversation is arguably the most powerful one of all, learning from what we actually did.
Conversation 5 is all about learning so we can improve. The team tracks a key metric called percent plan complete, or PPC. Now, when a task that was promised doesn't get done, they don't just shrug and move on. Nope, they dig in and analyze the reason for variance. And the goal here is absolutely not to assign blame, it's to understand why the plan broke down so the team can learn from it and make sure it never happens again.
That simple metric, PPC, it basically becomes the heartbeat of the whole system. It's the honest, no-fluff measure of how well your planning process is actually working. Are we a team that makes and keeps reliable promises? PPC tells you the truth.
And that, my friends, brings us right back to where we started. On the left, you've got that dismal 54% reliability from conventional planning. But on the right, that's what high-performing teams get with the last planner system, a consistent 80 to 85% reliability. That is a game-changing leap in predictability.
So if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. The last planner system is not just a series of meetings or a checklist you tick off. It's a continuous, flowing system. The learning from this week directly feeds the planning for next week. Each one of these 5 conversations fuels the others to create this amazing upward spiral of reliable, predictable work.
So I'll just leave you with one final question to think about. And I mean, really think about it. What could your team on your project achieve if your plans suddenly became over 30% more reliable? What would that change for you?